Spacefarer. Hey, what's up? I'm Caleb. This is WTUFO, and we have conversations with interesting people about UFOs. So if you like the topic, throw us a like and subscribe. That'll help the algorithm tell other people we exist. Hope you enjoy the episode, and have a great day. What the UFO? I'm here with Jim Quirk. Jim, it's so great to meet you. Thank you for joining me.
Thanks for having me on, Caleb. I'm sure we're going to have a lot of fun talking about UFOs and aliens today.
I'm really excited about it. For those who don't know, Jim hosts the show Extraterrestrial Reality in the Quirk Zone on YouTube. It's also called Extraterrestrial Reality on Spotify. How long have you been making this show, Jim?
I think it's about 4.5 years now.
Nice.
So it's getting there, you know. Building up a following slowly and surely, but
you're doing a great job. If anybody listening to this has not listened to Jim, it's a blast. I think you'll have a really good time. Jim's like super passionate, really intense. You bring the like high energy, and you're willing to get into the messy, strange, high weirdness of this situation. So I want to say thank you so much. I've been really enjoying your show. It's been something that I've loved listening to since I first got into this topic. So thank you very much for making it.
Well, thanks a lot, Caleb, for those kind words. I appreciate it greatly.
Thank you, man. One of my favorite parts of your show is the high level at which you engage with the subject on a passion scale. And so I'm hoping that we can channel some of that energy today and maybe vent a little. If you got to vent a little, I'll hold some space for you. When I first started my show, I called it Holding Space. It was not good for SEO, so I switched to WTUFO, but I'd be happy to hold space if you just want to complain about some stuff. I know the UFO world is full of things to complain about, but I thought I'd just start us with a quick thumbnail of your background, maybe give people just a taste of like what your life is. My viewers get mad at me if I do that for too long, but just quickly, who are you?
Well, my name is Jim Quirk. I used to be a newspaper reporter for different newspapers across the country in Iowa, Pennsylvania, where I'm at right now, and Hawaii. And then I left that business, and I was just working in driving truck and stuff like that for years. After that, I got tired. Well, you didn't make a lot of money being a reporter. So then I was driving truck for a while. And then when COVID hit, I was always interested in UFOs, and during that time, I was at home. You lose your job for a little while, for a few months, and I started doing a podcast. I was thinking, I'm going to start talking about UFOs because I really I really enjoy this subject, and I thought that a lot of people out there would enjoy this kind of things that I have to say about it. That's what I was thinking.
Cool. And all right, so great, quick summary. Thank you. As I've heard you discuss on the show, you also have like a personal impetus to care about this subject. And it comes from two strange experiences. One, when you were young, that involved meeting some unknown beings. And then one, as a younger man, seeing a craft. Would you like to talk about either of those? Are you comfortable?
Oh yeah. That's one of the biggest reasons I got into this was because of those incidents. If it wasn't for those incidents, I'd probably be just somebody who had a passing interest in this. I probably wouldn't be doing a podcast, but when you have an experience like that, when you encounter one of these beings, and then years after that, you see a craft up close and personal along with another witness, then you start really wondering, okay, this needs to be taken seriously. This is real. All these people have been talking about this for all these decades. They can't be making this up, because I saw it too. I experienced these things too. And the first thing that happened, Caleb, was back in 1977. I was almost 9 years old. I was just about to turn 9. And I used to sleep in this. We had this small house. I had 2 brothers and 2 sisters. Actually, one of my sisters, she wasn't even born yet. She was about to be born. And I was sleeping in the attic at the time with my brother Davey. He slept on one side of the room. I slept on the other, and there was like steps in the middle that separated it. And so I wake up the one night, and we used to sleep with the light on a lot of times. There was a light on top of the steps. So the room was completely illuminated. So I wake up in the middle of the night, and I could hear this humming sound, this buzzing humming sound, like this overpowering sound, I felt like I was standing next to an electrical transformer or something. That's how loud it was. I was like, what's that? And then meanwhile, I see I had a blanket over my head. I had this thin blue blanket over my head. It was in the summertime, and it was hot up in the attic, but sometimes I would sleep with the blanket on my head. And I wake up, and I could, not only do I hear this sound, but I could see that there's something standing right beside the bed. I could see the silhouette of something standing there, and I could see its hand was moving. It had a hand that It wasn't a human hand, whatever it was. The digits were thick at the base, and they came to almost tips at the points, or came to points at the tips of the fingers, and it was moving right above my face. I could see it through the blanket. I could see this arm and this hand moving like this constantly, just close to my face and further away, close to my face, further away, close to my. This went on. This whole thing lasted for 20 minutes, and the whole time this thing was standing there doing that, right? And I'm wondering what's going on, and I was too afraid to pull the blanket down. I didn't want to look at the face of this thing, right? And I'm scared out of my mind. I'm thinking I'm start communicating, like, who's there? What's going on? No, there's no answer. Just this humming sound, and this hand like showing up above my face and pulling back, showing up above my face, pulling back, and this went on and on. And so I'm scared out of my mind, wondering what's going on. It's not a dream. I'm wide awake. I'm moving around, right? But I'm too afraid to pull the blanket down. So I actually did pull the blanket up a little bit to see my brother Davey was sleeping on the other side of the room. And when I peeked through the blanket, I could see him, because the light was on. He was facing toward me, and I started yelling to him, Davey, right? He's not waking up. He's just completely oblivious, completely in comatose state. He's not waking up. And then I'm really terrified, and I started screaming for my mom and dad. And they were right underneath the floor underneath, and nobody came. And this is going on for like 20 minutes, screaming my head off. Nobody's coming. I resorted to prayers. I started saying prayers, hoping this thing would just go away. And it wouldn't. It was just there, and it continued to do this thing above my face. And then somehow I conked out. I just passed out somehow after 20 minutes. All this adrenaline was flowing through me, but somehow I fell asleep or something. And the next thing I knew, I wake up at 9 o'clock in the morning the next day. And I'm looking around the room. There's nothing there. I go down and I tell my mom about this, and she, of course, thought it was a dream. Insisted that it was a dream. I remember running around the house just thinking, "Mom, I'm telling you, this is what happened." She just wouldn't accept it, wouldn't believe it. And then it got to a point where I just stopped, and I realized that nobody's going to believe me. And at the time, I had no idea about aliens or anything like that, or alien abduction, or aliens in bedrooms, or aliens anything. I thought that was all nonsense. I thought that was all just science fiction stuff from the 50s. I didn't believe in it. I thought it was the devil. Actually, I was an altar boy at a local church, and so that's what I was thinking it was. Mm-hmm. I thought it was either a demon from hell or Satan himself. I had no clue. And I remember my dad got home later that day from work, and I went running out to him, trying to tell him. And of course, he said the same thing. "Oh, yeah, it's just a dream. Nobody believed me." So you just had to deal with it. Okay. They're all going to believe it's a dream. I know it's real. I'm just going to have to go through life like this, right? That's what I was thinking. I didn't know what else to think, So, life continued, and I had no explanation for it. I actually tried to convince myself sometimes that it was a dream, but I knew that it wasn't. I knew that there was absolutely no way it could have been a dream. I know what the difference. I mean, you could have real vivid dreams sometimes, but in the end if it was real or not. I was awake for 20 minutes. I mean, it was just like we're talking right now. I mean, this is what it was. And then somehow you passed out. It wasn't like you wake up from a nightmare. No, that's not what happened. Somehow I got conked out and then slept for hours and then wake up the next day. So life went on. And then I guess it was somewhere in the late 80s, it was at least 10 years went by. And I was watching a documentary or something on TV. They're discussing alien abduction. And that's when the light bulb started going on above my head. And then I considered this over some time. And then I finally reached the conclusion that that's what it had to be. I mean, I know that it was real. I know that there was something there. I know I wasn't dreaming. There was something in the room. There was this electronic buzzing transformer sound, like a bunch of bees or something the whole time. But by the way, when I started yelling for my brother, it was somewhat muffling my voice, that sound, whatever it was. Like it sounded like my voice was somewhat, and that really got me scared. And then that led to screaming from my mom and dad. So that's when I realized at that point, at some point after I'd say like 10 years at least, that's what it was. I came to, I was pretty certain that it couldn't have been nothing else. And then I started becoming interested. Probably in the early 90s, watching some documentaries here and there about UFOs. And then in mid-1995, I'm thinking it's 1995 it happened. And a friend of mine had contacted me, my friend Scott, longtime friend. He contacted me and said, he asked if I wanted to go night fishing with him. And he actually had gotten permission to go to this private community here in Pennsylvania called Beach Mountain Lakes. It's like it's a closed off, just for people that live there. So people have these beautiful houses around this nice lake. And he got permission to go fishing there through a family member who knew somebody there. I was like, yeah, I'll go. And so we went night fishing, and he picked me up in his pickup truck, and we drove. That was the first time I was ever at a Walmart that day. Actually, we stopped to get bait and snacks and stuff. And he didn't want to go fishing on the lake. There was a pond off the lake he was interested in fishing on. So that's where we went. We picked up some stuff at Walmart, and we drove to this place. There was a security guard there. He let us in, and then we drove, behind the lake, and there was this pond that we were fishing at, all by itself in the middle of nowhere. And we got there, I guess, 5, 6 o'clock, somewhere around there. It was just starting to get dark, it was dusk. And we were there for hours fishing, and it was a hot night. We weren't catching anything. I remember not even a bite. I mean, we were there for like 4 hours, right? And where there was no action going on. Scott was trying everything to catch something, and it just wasn't working. And then I guess it was around 10 o'clock at night, and I turned around to get something out of my tackle box, and I noticed behind me, behind where I was sitting, there was like an open field with all this tall grass, and on the perimeter was forest. And I saw moving behind the trees, lower than the trees, were these 3 bright lights, like big, giant circular lights, like headlight shaped, but they were huge, right? And they were moving behind the trees, like in a horizontal fashion. They were lined up horizontally. And then it came out from behind the trees and into an opening, right? And it started moving toward where we were fishing. And I said to Scott, Scott, what the hell is that? I'll never forget. He turned around, and this is exactly what he said. And the tone of the last word is exactly how it came off too. He says, "I don't know." Like the no was elevated. Because here's this thing. We're in the middle of nowhere, right? It's pitch dark. And all of a sudden there's this big object the size of a house with 3 big giant lights on the front of it lined up horizontally, moving right toward us. And he was actually closer to it. And he grabbed a flashlight out of the back of the pickup truck. And I'm standing there. This thing was within 20 feet of me, and it was only 2.5 stories off the ground. There was absolutely no sound whatsoever. And when he got that flashlight, he shined it on the bottom of this craft. And that's when I was like, okay, by this point I was already aware of what might happen here, right? Because I saw, watching alien abduction stories, right? So I was already thinking about, like the Pascagoula incident from '73, things like that were going through my head. But immediately when he shined that flashlight on it and was like moving the flashlight back and forth, that's when I said, "Scott, let's get the hell out of here," right? So he didn't even question it. We both started throwing the stuff in the back of the pickup truck. And then meanwhile, that thing that had stopped for a moment, then it started moving off in another direction as we were throwing the stuff in the pickup truck. And it was moving parallel to the way it came, and it was moving toward the top of the trees, very close to the top of the trees. Mm-hmm. Years later, talking to Scott, he said that this object was so close to the top of the trees that the tree tops were actually bending down, like some force was pushing them down. That's what he saw. I didn't see that. He also got a better look at it from the bottom. He said it was circular, right? It was like a saucer shaped, right? I only saw it from the front. I saw the 3 big lights right in front of me, right? And so anyway, we got in the truck, and we're flying down this dirt road, and we had to stop momentarily because there was at least 20 deer that came running from the direction where this thing had just flown, and they were scared, and they were running across the road. So we had to wait for them to get out of there. And then we took off. Then we got out of there, and we drove to a Dunkin' Donuts. And remember, we weren't even talking. We were both in shock. And we were sitting at the Dunkin' Donuts, and I finally said to Scott, I said, "Scott, that was a UFO." He's there. The first thing he said was, "I'm not saying anything. I'm not telling anybody." That was his first response. And the stigma, I understood it, but. Even the next day, I remember thinking to myself, when I got home and everything, and that night, I was worried of, should I even say anything to anybody? I mean, nobody ever believed me about the hand story, right? Mm. So what's the point? But I did. I told people anyway, right? And of course, that led to me reading more books about it over the years, becoming more interested in it, and now I started this podcast, and it's been doing pretty well since I started. It takes time, when you do these things, but you get a following and people enjoy the kind of things you have to say. I just think, to me, it's obvious there's something here. I mean, when you do the research, Caleb, I mean, there's just too much out there. I mean, how could anybody deny that there's something there's something here with this? It's undeniable. I mean, I had my own, I have the benefit of those, my personal experiences. But at the same time, once you read all this literature and you watch all these documentaries and you listen to all these different alien abductees talk about the stuff they experienced, there's no denying this.
Yeah, I tend to agree. I think the really hard part is getting people to do that reading. Engaging with that information at all is just extremely difficult if you're starting from a skeptical outside perspective. But I agree with your conclusion that once you're like neck deep in it, it's borderline impossible to look around and go, well, this is all just fantasy. I think it's kind of easier to do that when you haven't dipped a toe. And I think actually that's part of why some people don't like to engage with it, is that they want to maintain that sort of like plausible ignorance, so to speak. Because they know it's a signal of, poor judgment or like intellectual confusion or something. That's their like general understanding of the subject. So one of the big picture missions, as I understand it, is just like changing that cultural perception. And we'll talk a little bit about like where we're going and what our goals for civilization are at the end of this conversation. But just thank you for the detailed descriptions. I have two sort of sensory detail questions. One, on the sighting, was there a sound associated with this craft?
Absolutely nothing. No sound. That was that was the dead giveaway. How could you have something that's big as this thing? This thing was as big. I actually imagine like a ranch house. That was the size of this thing. It was like the size of a ranch house with these 3 giant spotlights on it. How could something that big be floating around without absolutely no sound in the middle of nowhere? And what was it doing there? I mean, they're just. We don't have things like this. We just don't. I mean, the human race, I still, to this day, have not seen anything what I saw that night. And there's no way that any human pilot, would ever dare fly that close to trees. Absolutely no chance of it. And nothing, I mean, all I could say is that I can't see how, once you see something like this up close like that, it's a done deal. I mean, okay, this is technology that far exceeds anything that we have, that I've ever seen to this day. That's over 30 years ago now. Or 30 years ago, actually, 1985. Yeah, excuse me.
Okay. Question.
Yeah, it would have been August. It would have been August, somewhere in the late summer when this happened in 1995, I believe. So it's over 30 years ago.
Good fishing season. Was did you notice anything about the light? This idea has come up repeatedly in like Robert Powell's work, that sometimes this light doesn't illuminate things. Like, was that a phenomenon for you? Do you remember seeing like did the light from this craft light up the trees or the lake, or were you looking at 3 lights but not seeing its impact on the landscape?
The lights looked very strange. The lights on these things were solid and they looked very strange. And I don't remember anything else being illuminated because my focus was on them the whole time. I mean, I saw the light shining through the trees, but I don't remember whether the rays were penetrating and landing on the grass before. My eyes were focused totally on this object, watching it move behind the trees to that opening and then start gliding right to where we were, stop for like a few seconds, and then going back a different way. I mean, so I don't know. Maybe it wasn't. I can't really say. I can't one way or the other. I can't.
Yeah, thank you for your honesty. Total side note, but have you read Robert Powell's book, UFOs, A Scientist Explains What We Know and Don't?
No, I have not read Robert Powell's book. No.
Strong recommend. You might really enjoy. He's one of the Scientific Coalition for UAP Studies founders, and it's just like a really lucid, highly detailed book. And then it ends with a whole bunch of very specific calls to action about what we should do to research this further. And I really enjoyed, so you might too, just some of the detailed case study stuff he goes into. He sort of slots it by kind of phenomenon. Like there's a chapter about light, and he goes into various experiences that involve light, and so on and so forth. Strong recommend. And for anybody listening, Robert Powell's UFOs, A Scientist Explains What We Know and Don't.
Yeah, I'm aware of it, but I just haven't gotten to that point. I have to pick that one up. There's so many. Cool. I'm actually behind a lot of books. It's hard to keep. There's a lot of books I want that you can't even get anymore, actually. Quite honestly.
Yeah, I know. I wish some of the older stuff like the Keating and Stanton Friedman were on audiobooks, because I'm all audio all the time. And none of that stuff exists. So there's a whole like generation of UFO research that I'm missing, but I've still read like 50 books about this. There are plenty. One more question about the being encounter. I didn't realize from earlier descriptions that you only saw the hand of this thing. Is that right?
Well, I saw like you could tell there was a silhouette, like I could see the shadow of something standing or the head of something, but I
Mm,
couldn't really get a good look. I didn't want to look at it. All I saw
yeah.
was the arm and the hand, and I could assure you that whatever was at the end, whatever this was not human. Whatever this hand was not any nothing close to what a human hand could look like. I mean, the palm it was smaller. I mean, it was different, and the fingers were, like I said, just three of them that I could see, and they were thick at the base, and they came to points at the tips. It was just whatever it was. Like I said, that's probably why I thought it was demonic too. I mean, to see
Mm.
something like that, uh, and then of course with the sound associated, I have no idea what it was. I mean, I know that something was there. I could feel that presence. I could see. I mean, the whole room was lighted up. It was very well illuminated. I could see that there was something standing there. But the only thing I could really see, because the blanket was very thin, I could see this arm and hand, and it was. That's all I saw, though. Yeah, I never saw the face. I was too afraid to look at the face. And the other thing is about this is like some people say, well, maybe because you don't remember what happened, somehow you got conked out, right? For all I know, maybe there's some more. I'm sure probably more things happened, and I just don't recall them. Well, why do you get hypnotized? Well, I'm not sure if I want to remember anything. You know, that's the other thing. I mean, enough people have gotten hypnotized at this point that tells me that, oh, yeah, a lot of times these experiences are terrifying. Why would I want to relive something that's terrifying when I know for a fact that we're not alone and that something was in the room and I saw a UFO? I mean, I'm not sure if I need to go to that length at this stage of the game. I think it's more important just to, let people know that, hey, if you're not up to date on this, well, then you're really ignorant. You're just living in a world that's not real. The real world is that there's something here with us, and you need the sooner you get on board with that, the better off you'll be.
Yeah, I tend to agree. And I think it's sort of strange that we celebrate that ignorance currently. Again, something we could talk about how to fix later. But just to dial in a little bit more on the arm, do you remember any color or skin tone stuff?
No. I think it was just like a darkish color. It was like I mean, I had the impression that it was brownish or grayish or something to that effect, but that's all I could say. I mean, it may have been even closer to a blacker color, to a really dark color. I mean, that's what it seemed like from what I was seeing.
Huh. And it came to a point. Did you see like fingernails or claw things?
No fingernails, nothing like that. All I could see was it was just the bottom of the hand. Like I saw the bottom part because the hand was moving above my face, then back further away. It was coming right up to where my face was. Like if I would have went like this, I would have been able to feel it. And of course, when you're a kid like this and you think Satan's in the room with you, you're not going to pull that blanket down to look at his face.
Right.
I mean, in some ways, sometimes I regret it, because I wonder what would have happened. What would have happened if I would have pulled the blanket? Or another thing I think about too is like, what if I would have tried to get out of there? Like I was, because I was thinking of that. Maybe if I just run up really quick and jump over this end of the bed and run down the steps, maybe I'll be okay. But I didn't I was too afraid. I was so afraid I couldn't even do that because that thing was right on top of me. Like I didn't think I was going to get away. That's some of the stuff that was going through my head.
That sounds terrifying.
It was, yeah.
One more detailed question. You said the room was full of light. You think it was from a light in the room, or do you think it was a different kind of light?
No, the light, there was a light on top of the steps, right?
Oh, okay.
Right at the very top of the steps, there was a light. It wasn't even covered. It was just like a bulb, a bare bulb and top screwed into like a socket. And so that thing the whole room was illuminated. That's why I was able to see this thing. Right. So sometimes we'd sleep with the light on, reading a book or a comic book or whatever, and the light would be left on all night long. So obviously that was one of those nights. The light was on, and so I could see everything. That's when I peeked out of the blanket. I could clearly see my brother's face. He was facing toward me, sleeping, but he wouldn't wake up. I could see everything clearly, and that's why I was able to see that whatever that was, through the blanket as well as I was able to see it.
Wow. Okay. Thank you so much for all the detail and for going back into this, I would imagine, pretty difficult memory. I'm so sorry nobody believed you and you had to just live with that for years and years yourself. It must have been a really tough experience.
Well, that's the thing. I mean, to me, right, I could tell this story till my face turns blue. I know there's going to be people out there that will, wow, he must have been dreaming. And that's fine, right? But here's the issue. When you have tens of thousands, if not millions of people at this point who have had strange experiences like this with non-human and apparent non-human intelligent beings, I mean, it becomes pretty clear to me that, okay, there's something more to this. There is something here. And I think at this point, we actually have evidence now, which is something I talk about on my channel a lot these days.
So let's move into the middle part of our conversation, which we'll call "What is Going On?" I'd love to start with a big picture question for you. Maybe you can lay out just your model of the nature of reality after thinking about this for a couple of decades. And then we can do a little lightning round / game where I'll ping you about specific theories that people have and see what you think about each of them. But first, big picture, what the UFO do you think is going on?
Well, my top theory is that there's a extraterrestrial presence here on this planet. I don't think they're from here. I know there's a lot of different opinions on this. I wouldn't call my channel or my podcast Extraterrestrial Reality if I didn't think so. Doesn't make me right. I understand that. It could turn out at some point in the future that, some people say it could be interdimensional. There's some people that say they were here the whole time, ultra terrestrial. Some other sort of a consciousness with us here that's responsible. But I think that they're coming from other planets. I think it's possible that they're looking for other places to live. I mean, if they're this advanced and they're able to travel this far, that means that they've been around a lot longer than we've been around. And maybe their planet, where they come from, could be, could seen better days, and they need a new place to settle down. And maybe that's what's going on. It seems like that could be the case based on research by people like David M. Jacobs, who hypnotized well over 1,000 different people who were claimed to have been abducted by aliens. And he put all these pieces together. And he says that there, at some point, there's supposed to be some sort of a change. They're creating some sort of a they're using the abductions are for the purposes of this hybridization program that they have going on, for as crazy as that sounds. And that there are right now among us people, we think they're people, but they're not. They're half alien, half human. If this is all true, then this could be some sort of a slow takeover, but done quietly, done from the inside out rather than from the outside in, rather than coming here and just blowing everything up and killing us or whatever. Instead, they're taking us control of us, basically a la Invasion of the Body Snatchers style, except they're not using seed pods. They're basically using us. They're taking sperm from men, egg from women, fiddling with that, impregnating the women for a couple of months with these hybrid babies. Then they re-abduct them, and then they take them out, and then they whatever they do with them. Some of them are hybrids that are living among us, or what Jacobs calls hybrids, because they're so much like us. And then some of them, you see, like some beings that they're a cross between. You could tell that they're aliens, and they're more like used as for their workforce.
I did read one of those Jacobs books, The Threat, maybe something like that, and it was pretty creepy. I'm curious what your take on the hybrid idea is. Like, what sort of, where would you put that 1 to 10 in like likelihood rating?
Well, I really don't want to believe that. I'm hoping that David Jacobs is wrong, but at this point, because no one wants to talk about it, I'm going to have to put it at like a 7 or an 8, because that's probably what's happening. I mean, to this point, he's the only one who's done this kind of research. No one else has really dipped their toe into it as much as he has. I mean, I know there's other researchers out there that have done so, but they're not with us anymore. John Mack, Bud Hopkins, but for the most part, you don't really hear anybody talking about this that much anymore. I know that MUFON still meets with alien abductees, but we're just not getting that kind of stuff that we're getting from David M. Jacobs. And to this point, nobody has really refuted anything that he's put forward. They won't even, it's like they can't even criticize it because they don't even know what to say. They don't even know where to begin. That's what it seems like to me.
Yeah, this is a really hard one because it's one of the crazier themes. Like it's so weird that you, from the outside, you think the whole thing is crazy, and then once you cross this line into like, okay, well maybe it's visiting aliens, then there are these other things that seem even crazier, and you start thinking, well, that's beyond the pale, and it is hard to draw these lines. But I just, while we're here in the realm of blatant speculation, I want to stir the pot by adding this possibility to the mix. It seems conceivable to me that a hybrid program could be useful for like military reconnaissance. It could also be compatible with like a broad scale takeover attempt. But I would maybe say that the scale of abductions at least seems to have ebbed. That's an idea that's been out there, and people have expressed who are a little closer to the data that this doesn't seem to be going on as much, or it's happening in ways that are, less detectable now than ever.
Yes.
Yeah, go ahead.
I think I agree with that. I mean, it does seem like, but I recently I've been getting contacted by more and more people who are telling me that they are having they're still being, screwed around with by aliens. I mean, they're still having issues, but I think you're right too. It does seem like maybe it's ebbed somewhat, and that it's not as much as it used to be in the past, or as blatant that it used to be in the past. There were a lot of I think that these beings are getting smarter and smarter as time is going on too, and they probably have figured out better ways to control us, better ways to make us forget about things. That could be possible too. All of these things could be possible. That's what's scares me. They might be getting better, just as we get better at things and we become more advanced. Maybe they're getting more advanced too in the way they deal with us. That's another thing that people need to keep in mind as well.
Yeah, that's a good point. They could have had a lot of practice at this point, as you say, like tens of thousands, maybe millions of people. That's a lot of chances to like refine the techniques. Okay, so an intuition we share is that there's some extraterrestrial component. I personally am in that boat. I think it's like kind of Occam's razor, but it's not to say that I shut the door to all other potential explanations, but which sounds like your position as well. It's possible that there are other things going on, but one of the believable possibilities to me seems like visiting aliens. Follow-up question on that. Is your impression that we're dealing with multiple kinds of beings?
I think that we are. I think that it's probably not just one species or species. I think that seems to me that there's definitely there seems to be a species that is engaged in this abduction hybridization program, and it seems like it's always the same kinds of descriptions are always involved in it. It's like short grays, tall grays, sometimes reptilians, and insectoids are the ones pulling the strings. That's what it seems like. It seems like, but then you read, there's different kinds of stories over the years, like historical accounts, where the beings don't look like any of these things. They look different. And so I would have to imagine, like, for instance, there's that crazy story from the early 60s where a guy was given pancakes by some beings. I mean, he actually still had the pancakes. He had the evidence.
Yeah, he took one into the local constabulary and they ran an analysis, I believe.
Yeah. I mean, I'm not sure. I mean, now is every, like, here's the other thing. I always like, I'm trying to be, if you're being conservative, okay, if you have all these stories, I would say 100% out of 100%, of course, some of them are probably not going to be true. Okay. So let's just say 20%, 25%. That still leaves you with 75% that you're dealing with. I think it's probably that. And I think that's being conservative. I think some people are just looking for, they think they're going to make a lot of money and they'll come up with a story, but I don't think that happens as often as people believe. I don't think that's the case at all. Most people don't even want to talk about it. They don't want to be public about it. They don't want their name shared. When you meet with them, and they're scared about what's happening. Yeah. So
way more people have that reaction that your friend had, which is, I'm never going to talk about this to anyone.
Right. It's a stigma. The stigma's still there. But yeah, what were we saying? What was that? Oh yeah. The question was
beings, basically.
What are they? Yeah. There's more than just those. I think that there's other ones that show up here sometimes. I mean, there was a really interesting story from the 70s where there was some country western singer. I can't remember his name. I actually did a show about this once, where he had incredible experience seeing aliens on the side of a highway outside of Las Vegas. I don't know if you know the story I'm talking about.
Maybe I've heard highway stories.
Yeah. Well, he had this crazy encounter with these weird looking aliens that didn't look like anything that we see reported by alien abductees.
And then little blue ones.
They're tall. They were large. They were large with like weird looking heads. I mean, there was a drawing and stuff but it looks different than what and I'm wondering, this is what the weird part about that story was. Then he had these Men in Black encounters where they're trying to, this story is very in depth and there's a lot of details to it. So I'm just going to, the bottom line of it was that he had encounters with Men in Black who were basically trying to shut him up over what he saw, and asking him questions about what he saw. Like, they didn't really know what it was, but it didn't seem like these Men in Black they seemed like they might have been hybrids when you read this story when you do the research on this. And I'm wondering sometimes maybe these hybrids are so infiltrated that they're concerned about other beings coming here. And maybe that's what's going on sometimes. And that's why they show up asking questions. Maybe these men in black are aliens that are already here with us. And when anything happens and they don't know about it, that means there might be some other alien race here that we need to investigate and make sure that hey, this is our planet. Maybe that's what's going on. There's all kinds of ideas that go through my head. I'm not saying any of them this is true. I don't know. All I could say that's true is that there is no question something is here. There's no doubt about that. What they are doing, that's why we need more people in the scientific community involved in this and talking about it openly. More people need to talk about this openly.
Yeah, and research it and spend money on it. I just want to double click on Men in Black because I think that's one of the most fascinating aspects of this whole conversation. And I want to agree with you and reaffirm this idea that it's possible that some of these creatures are not human or part human or something like that, because a lot of Men in Black stories have really weird details. Like they're both exactly the same height. They never blinked. They used strange anachronistic language. They all drove the same kind of car. They just didn't have eyelids or something. Like there's a lot of weird shit. And sorry to swear. I think it's kind of funny that this idea that there might be like a self-appointed guardianship species that's like kind of running a control operation to keep people quiet about this. And I love the idea that they're doing that on their own. When you get involved with the idea of like human collaboration, things get scarier. So I guess I'll pivot to that in a second, but I want to quickly reaffirm, generally agree that we're probably dealing with extraterrestrials, generally agree that there are multiple kinds. My sort of working theory is we're looking at like 3 or 4, maybe 5 or 6, like very common form factors. Maybe these are like our closest neighbors, like the ones with the biggest nearby presence. And then as you get into these stories, you find like a long tail of other weird form factors. Like they look like a trash can. This looked like a television. It looked like a Smurf, these tall ones with weird heads you described. And that to me sounds like a universe that's filled with different kinds of life forms, and that they can move around pretty easily, but that we are kind of close to a dominant population center of some of the ones that we see most frequently, like the Greys and the Mantids and the Nordics or whatever. Does that seem right-ish to you?
Yeah, and actually, I sometimes wonder about the Nordics too. Like, I wonder, are they perhaps hybrids themselves? In Travis Walton's case, for instance, like he met someone that looked like a person you would just think it was a regular person you could pass on the street, and then they did something to him and caused him to pass out, and then he woke up on the side of the highway, but he also saw other aliens there. The common description, the gray aliens with the big heads. He saw that, and he also saw. So I wonder, and this Nordic didn't speak with this human-looking version alien did not speak with him. So you have to wonder. I wonder, are the Nordics just hybrids, a different variation of a hybrid? Were they manufactured by these creatures using our DNA? That's what I'm curious about that. Like some people say their Nordics are their own little race. I'm not so sure about that. It seems like they do show up sometimes, and they are involved with the other more insect-like looking creatures. So what's up with that? Like, I don't know. Again, it could be that they are a race that just looks like that, but I'm not so sure about it. I think these are all questions we don't have answers for.
Yeah, and you raise a good point there about the idea of constructed entities, which does come up from time to time. People will say, like, it felt more like a machine, even though it looked biological. And this is a good entree into the question of human collaboration with abductions, because if there are hybrids that look a lot like humans out there, it muddies the waters. Maybe an all-alien group could pick somebody up, but they could have a lot of hybrids working with them who look like humans. So it creates the impression I was abducted by aliens and humans. But then there's also the possibility, which I think is frankly scarier for some weird reason, that there are groups of humans, like regular garden variety humans, who are working with these beings, whether in the capacity of like secret government programs or scarier, just like black ops, criminal cabals. So I wanted to bounce those ideas off of you because I frankly find both of them terrifying.
I think that is terrifying. I think the idea that there could be a deal that was made between alien beings and figures in our government in the past, and maybe still ongoing right now, that would scare the hell out of me. That means there's somebody selling us out for some reason. Like, why would you do something like that? If that is the case, it just seems to me, if that were true, then that means we could be in big trouble here, because who knows more about human beings than human beings? And if human beings are collaborating with aliens and trying to set the rest of us up for some reason, just so they could gain financially or power wise, then yes, we are most certainly in trouble. But that wouldn't surprise me at the same time, because if you just take a nice close look at the human race, you see what's possible, what people are possible of, what the things that are possible of doing, So that doesn't surprise me. But yeah, it does scare you. It is a scary idea. The concept of aliens. I don't know if I believe that. There's not enough data on that. You hear stories like there could have been meetings and stuff like that, but is it real? I don't know. I don't know if there's enough evidence to that effect. I hope not. I don't even see what reason would aliens have to make secret deals with people in government. I mean, couldn't they just do what they want? They wouldn't need. And another thing too, you talked earlier about, you mentioned about, some hybrids, according to research by Jacobs, a lot of times they're wearing like army fatigues. And I think that's some sort of a trick to make people think that there could be military involved with this. That's just how they're dressing for whatever reason. Maybe because maybe in their minds, yeah, this is going to be a takeover, and I guess it's okay to wear camouflage uniforms and whatnot. It gives us that the look that we're actually striving toward. I don't know. There's just so many different ways of looking at this. It's hard to say one way or the other exactly what is happening.
I just want to say to the side here that one of the sci-fi points that I find most useful in thinking about this subject has been Avatar, because it's a good model of how we might behave if we encountered another intelligent species. And that is to say, we would try to infiltrate them. Basically, we would sneakily observe them. We might try to extract resources from their planet. And we would probably try to blend in to confront them in the same way that we send spies to all the different nations of the world. All the powerful nations have spies in all the other powerful nations. It's just like a natural sort of intelligence military operation. So it's pretty believable that people that a visiting species might do something like that, basically try to hide here.
Yes, I think they're hiding right among. I mean, to me, something is happening, right? And exactly what that is, I can't say, but it does seem, if you're going to be secretive like this, and you're going to do this secret hybridization program, and then sprinkle out hybrid beings throughout the globe. I mean, obviously, it seems to me whatever they're doing, we would not agree with this. Otherwise, I don't think they would do it this way. If they're here for purposes of that are supposed to help us, then I think they would have been open about it. But that's not the case. It's not the case, not even close. And they're just as secretive as the government.
Yeah, they do occasionally. Some of these reports involve really positive messages or positive experiences. But I tend to agree that the sneakiness is not a great sign. It doesn't inculcate trust to hide and deceive as much as whatever these beings are clearly seem to think it's important to do. Something I've heard you talk about lately that also feels right to me is that there's within military and intelligence circles in the U.S. at least, we're probably looking right now at kind of opposing forces with regard to the idea of disclosure, that some people might be trying to kind of get the word out gradually, and some people are trying to drag their heels and throw dis and misinformation around. Is that sort of the status of your thinking, that there's like a disagreement within the program?
Yes, I think that there's most certainly a disagreement. I think that what's happening in government, that's probably been, I think it was happening all the time. The one part that's been happening is that there's most certainly a contingent in there that want to keep this bottled up forever. They just can't see how the world will ever be able to deal with this. They're for so many different reasons. I mean, if they're having a Cold War with trying to reverse engineer recovered craft with Russia and China, okay, that's a good reason to keep this quiet from their perspective. At the same time, I think you could I think everybody understands, right? I understand. Okay, you don't talk about what you've learned during this reverse engineering process. You just talk about the truth that we're not alone, but they don't want to go there for some reason. And I think that reason is probably because they just don't have a lot of answers. And then I think there are people at the same time within some people that are former government and current government that feel differently, that they think we need to start getting this out. And this is what they're doing. I think what we're seeing right now, all of this could be theater. Actually, it's all this slow disclosure process, the hearings in Congress, Congress people, bipartisan effort. They don't get along with anything, but they're getting along with each other when it comes to this. And then you have different former and current members of the military and government talking about this openly. We have that documentary coming out next month, Age of Disclosure, which is going to feature a lot of different people from the government, current and former. So I think that, yeah, there is that. But I think at the same time, right, so you have people want to keep it bottled up. Then you have some people who are engage in this slow disclosure process where you just keep talking about UFOs for over years, right? Until people finally realize, okay, it must be real. And then you have people like me who the evidence is already here. We already see it. There's enough here. What we need more people in the mainstream media to take a look at this evidence and tell the public what the story is. The reality of the situation is there's enough evidence now available in the public domain that shows us that we're not alone. There's no question about it at this time, as far as I'm concerned. But because I don't have any power, the people in power made this decision, apparently, the two different factions. They made the decision, okay, we're going to have slow disclosure. The other one says, okay, no, we're not. We're going to fight it every step of the way. And then you have other people out there saying, well, we have enough evidence right now. It's time for just show us what you got. What do you know? That's how I feel.
What do you think about the breakaway civilization hypothesis? This is sort of, I guess, the Stephen Greer idea that there's a big criminal conspiracy that's like extra governmental, that's like a group of people like Spectre or the Illuminati that have a bunch of this tech and have people in positions of power, and they're kind of manipulating this whole situation and trying to use it for their own ends.
I don't really go for that one. I don't think there is some breakaway civilization. I don't believe. I mean, if you want to consider the Majestic 12 and those people, I mean, I think it's a small group. I don't think there is any breakaway civilization.
Majestic 12 here referring to the idea that there's like a government study of UFOs and like controlling group that, I don't know, manipulates the information around the subject.
Yeah, that keeps it quiet, that is in charge of, reverse engineering programs and crash retrieval programs and the program to keep this from the public. I think that's what Majestic 12 is. I mean, who knows what it's called? I think it could have been called Majestic 12 at one point. Who knows what it's called today? Mm-hmm. But I think that there has to be an organization within the Pentagon that's made up of figures within the Pentagon, as well as private defense contractors that are controlling this information. And I think for the biggest reason is the reverse engineering aspects. But I don't believe that there was some breakaway civilization. I don't see that. I mean, to me, there really isn't. I mean, if you look at historical records, there's not a lot of evidence for that. I mean, there's been sightings, there's been encounters with aliens apparently for centuries, right, here and there, sporadic. Mm-hmm. But since 1947. It's snowballed. I mean, it took off in a way that's never stopped. I mean, there's every day there's UFO sightings. I mean, all the time, constantly people are seeing UFOs. Constantly people are having weird encounters with beings. I mean, if you go to places like the National UFO Reporting Center, you see it all the time. There's constantly people leaving their reports on there, filing their reports with that, or contacting MUFON. So I just don't see it. I'm just not. It doesn't make me right, I just don't believe that there could be a breakaway civilization. I know that there's people keeping the secret, and they think that they feel powerful because they're sitting on the secret and they're the ones studying it secretly. But I wouldn't consider that a breakaway civilization. I just consider that a bunch of people who are keeping it secret. That's it. I mean, it's not that they're any better than anybody else. I mean, or the idea of a breakaway civilization too is that something's the reason that we're seeing all this, the reason that we have this phenomenon in the first place, is because there's a breakaway civilization that we didn't know anything about that's been with us here the whole time. I don't really believe that either, but it doesn't make me right. I just believe that extraterrestrials came here. They've been checking us out for a long time. And then finally something happened. Maybe it was because we started using atomic bombs. That could be the reason why they showed up. Maybe they're just afraid of how we're advancing. Maybe they're afraid of what we'll do in the future if we keep advancing like this and we don't change our ways, if we just continue as a violent species. Maybe that's what it's all about. There's all kinds of theories here when it comes to the reasoning for them being here.
You saying this earlier, but related to the idea of the reverse engineering program, do you have any thoughts about the idea that we might be militarily collaborating in some sense, that we might have like established relations with one or more of these groups that are
It could be
neutral or positive, and we're working with them militarily to just like learn about them and prepare ourselves to confront other more dangerous species?
I guess that's a possibility. That's an interesting hypothesis. I think all these ideas, these theories are on the table right now. I don't know. And that could be what's going on behind the scenes. Maybe that's what it is. That's a very interesting hypothesis, that maybe what's going on here, maybe there's something that we need to be worried about. And these aliens came to our officials a long time ago and told them, hey, we're going to help you out, but you need to, give us something back. But the reason we're going to help you out is because you might get attacked by these other beings. And so we need to do this all secretly. That sounds like a good hypothesis. I don't know though. It's just something. This is the problem. When the problem with covering this up for so long is that we have all these wild ideas about what might be going on, but we really can't say for sure which one is the correct one. The only correct thing that anybody could say about this is that there is something here. Absolutely no question about it. Right? No doubt about it. What it is, I can't say for sure. I think it's extraterrestrial. Why they're here, what the purpose is, we could only speculate.
Why do you think we don't have any good evidence when we look out into the stars? Is it just that we don't have enough equipment and enough like history of looking for things? Like we've never seen something that we thought looked like a Dyson sphere or like a swarm of alien spaceships. Like people in the sort of like SETI or like astronomy communities, they point up and they go like question marks. Like we don't have any outside evidence. So like what that says to me is if they're here and they're being sneaky, it's possible that they're being sneaky on like a galactic and universal scale as well, that civilizations tend to like cloak their signatures such that they're difficult to see. But it's also possible that we're just kind of kids on the block and it's hard for us to see tech we don't understand. Do you have a theory about that?
I think what you just laid it out. I mean, I never really thought about that, before, about are they keeping things hidden from us in space? Oh, I would say so. Yeah. I mean, if they're keeping things hidden from us here, I would think they would have to be aware of what kind of abilities we have to peek into the stars. So they would have to take measures to make sure that we don't peek at them. I never really thought about that before. I was more, pretty much the focus is on what's going on here. But yeah, that's I'm sure that could be something that would be they would consider, and they probably would do. Now there was that recent paper that came out where from the 1950s, or it was a paper talking about camera images from the 1950s where our planet was completely surrounded by objects. What kind of objects? What were they doing there? Metal objects, right?
Oh, right. Oh, yeah. I'm really excited about this. I'm going to talk
Yes.
to one of the authors of this paper. I think it's really good, really interesting. Very important. Just to describe this, vanishing and appearing sources over a century of observation, the Vasco project, I think, looked at satellite footage from late 49 through early 57, and they found over 100,000 transient images, and then they did a statistical analysis of when these transient points of light popped up, and they found that they were much more likely to appear, like 60+% more likely to appear after a nuclear test, and every report of a UFO from that day increased the likelihood of a transient by like 8+%. So they found some strong statistical evidence that these could be little images of UFOs from a period of time during which we had no satellites in the sky. So probably people who are listening are familiar with that finding already, but I think it could be really important for the science going forward.
Yes. So, I mean, there was that, and you have to think, I mean, that could maybe the reason, right? There could be another hypothesis that I like talking about. It could be that, like I was just saying before, is that they're afraid of us, the way and maybe that's why they're intervening. Maybe that's the whole reason for this hybrid program, this secret hybridization program. Maybe we're out of control with the way we treat each other, and they're seeing this. I mean, if you're outside of the box looking down at the way we treat each other, right? I mean, as a whole, right? It's not good. It's just not good when you look at it from a whole outside of the box. They're seeing this. They're seeing us drop. They're seeing the Holocaust. They're seeing us dropping nuclear bomb or atomic bombs on Nagasaki and Hiroshima, and then all of a sudden, 1947 rolls around. UFOs are all over the place.
Yeah.
And then we just talked about all these objects surrounding the Earth that were seen from 1949 to 1957, and they seem to be more active when there's a nuclear test. So maybe that's what this is all about, and they're concerned that we might be taking our game plan out into the rest of the galaxy here. Maybe that's what it's all about, and they're trying to get control of it before it ever gets to that point. Maybe that's what it is, and that's why we're for all we know, we might be getting absorbed slowly over time because of the way we are. That could be the reasoning.
Yeah, to your point there, you just gave me an image of us like visiting gorillas in the jungle and bringing guns to be like, this is how you fire a handgun. We would obviously never do that. So that's like a reasonable explanation for being careful around us as a species. So we're a little dangerous right now, and it may not be a convenient time to introduce us to the higher order technologies of the universe.
Well, what you just said is interesting. Imagine if we went into the jungle and we found a race of apes that did have guns and rifles and were shooting at each other and then start shooting at us. I think we would be very concerned all of a sudden, right?
Yeah.
I mean, what do we do? What do we do when we, a lot of times, when I was just talking recently about the 1955 Hopkinsville, Kentucky goblin spree incident. And in that incident, there was 11 witnesses and two of them were shooting at these creatures that showed up on their this home in the middle of nowhere in Kentucky.
Yeah. So, it's like a farmhouse and a family of 11, and they have basically a shootout with at least one, but possibly a group of creatures. And every time they hit it, there's this like pinging metal sound or something, but it never dies. And then they all go to the police together. They're freaking out. And I think you mentioned a detail in your episode that I hadn't heard before, which is one of these men had his pulse taken at the police station. It was like 145 beats a minute or something. Like he was genuinely terrified.
Right. So it could be that. I mean, look how we reacted. Maybe that was just a test. Like one of my hypotheses for that case was that it could have been, this is an experiment. Let's see what these yokels do when we land here and show them creatures. How are they going to treat us? Are they going to be kind to us and ask us to come in and have a beer? Or are they going to shoot us? And so that could have been a test. I mean, now recently I thought of something else. I thought maybe, there's different theories on what it could have been. It could have just been something landing and they were just, that's the way aliens act. I don't know. Maybe they just didn't think anyone would act like that toward them. Another intelligent species. Who knows? There's all kinds of theories. But yeah, I don't know. I just think that they probably look at us and we're violent and we just don't know how to treat each other. And it continues. It doesn't change. We're more advanced today than we technologically, but we're still the same way. Nothing's really changing.
Right. No, that's the dangerous part is our technology is getting better. We're building spaceships. We're building AI. We can build viruses and bacteria now. Like we are at a point where we could be a real threat to each other and others, absent intervention. So maybe things are coming to a head. And speaking of bringing things to a head, before we go into our last third of what we should do going forward and what postures we should adopt, I thought we could do a quick lightning round about some of the wild possibilities that we haven't covered here. I haven't played this game in a long time, but my brother named it Bigfoot is Real. So what we can do here is I'll ask you to rate the likelihood of this strange possibility that I will describe, and you can tell me either more data needed or Bigfoot is real. Is that good?
So Bigfoot is real will be the answer if it's real for no matter what it is.
Yeah, if you think there's something to it and this feels likely to you, Bigfoot is real. If you think you're not so sure, maybe we need more information, more data needed, citation needed, or just go whatever you want to say. Okay. Ancient advanced civilizations used to exist on Earth doing cool high technological things. Citation needed or Bigfoot is real?
I'm going to go citation needed.
Okay, that's how I feel too, because I think we would find some kind of evidence. Like it's weird that we have dinosaur bones from 100 million years ago, but we don't have like graphite or graphene buildings from some advanced super tech. It would have to be a very, very long time ago, is basically my thinking.
Right.
Magical earthly creatures like fairies and pixies and other mystical cryptids. Bigfoot is real or citation needed?
Citation needed. I mean, it could be that some of these things were invented because they didn't know what else to call aliens. I mean, that's always possible too. I don't know. There have been some really strange stories with some of these things, but I'm not sure if there's really not a lot of evidence for it. So yeah, citation needed for that.
Okay, fun. Ghosts, as in human spirits returning or communicating with the living. Bigfoot is real or citation needed?
Citation needed again, unfortunately. I mean, I've actually have an interest in ghosts, but I don't know. I haven't seen anything that could absolutely prove it. There's a lot of weird pictures that I've been taking. I was interested in ghost pictures, but at the same time, it's not, to me, the level of evidence for aliens and there's a lot more there for that. Even for Bigfoot than there is for ghosts. Although I think there could be something to it, but still citation needed.
Okay, interesting. So might be a similar answer here. Angels and other non-physical entities. Bigfoot is real or citation needed?
Again, it could be, but I'm going to have to go citation needed because it's just not the level of it. I mean, that's more of a matter of faith. If we're going to be scientific here, I have to say citation needed.
Okay, this is a wild one. I don't even really know what it means, but I hear it floating around in this conversation sometimes. The sun is a portal. Bigfoot is real or citation needed?
Citation needed.
I don't even know how to ask a follow-up question.
Yeah, I don't know.
Okay, moving right along. Motherships underwater on Earth. Bigfoot is real or citation needed?
Bigfoot is real. I mean, they're hiding somewhere. I think it's probably in the oceans, in space, on the dark side of the moon, wherever. But they're using they have to have some places for bases inside mountains. I definitely think they're using the oceans. There's been so many reports of craft flying out of oceans. So yes, Bigfoot is real.
Okay, that one sounds real to me too. And last one, let's do Bigfoot themselves. Large, hairy, ape-type creatures are sneaking around in the woods. They're a species we haven't discovered, and they do things we don't understand. Bigfoot is real or citation needed?
I think Bigfoot is real. I do. I've met him. I've met somebody one time who saw a creature, a Bigfoot creature. I believed him wholeheartedly. Because there was no reason for him to lie. In fact, I contacted him. He had his experience in the 1970s when he was a teenager, and I contacted him in 2000 or 1999 to do newspaper articles. He was the uncle to one of my friends, and I actually contacted him, and he didn't want to do it. I talked him into it. Like he was very reluctant to talk about this, but he actually ended up taking me to this site. And there was no reason for him to lie. And besides that, I think the Patterson Gimlin footage shows something. And I think that there's some other videos recently. There was a video in Colorado on a train that was very intriguing, I thought, where you saw a figure walking, a hairy figure. There's just too many people involved. We don't have the evidence for it for some reason. I think they're just great at hiding themselves somehow. And I think I don't think it's real. Bigfoot is real. Yeah.
Cool. For one follow-up question about that, do you think these creatures are like generic biological creatures that are just really stealthy, or do you think they're doing something like extra sneaky, like slipping into pocket dimensions or like working with some aspect of reality we don't understand?
No, I think that they're living here with us. I think actually they could be. There's a possibility that this is actually us, right? And maybe that's one of the maybe, right? There's been some instances where UFOs have been seen, and there have been UFO / Bigfoot encounters where there's a UFO hanging around. It's possible. This is a theory that I have. It doesn't make me right. It's just an idea. I have an idea that maybe Bigfoot is actually what we started out as, and maybe these creatures, these aliens, have been tinkering with us for all these millions of years. And this is right now. This is the latest result. This is Bigfoot 2.0 or whatever. 10.0.
Interesting. That's fun. Okay, well, one other thing that I forgot to ask you about is, do you have general takes on the time travel idea that some of these creatures might be from another time, or even like us from the future?
That kind of theory. I mean, is it possible? I don't know. I don't know about time travel. I mean, that's one of those things of citation needed, I guess. I mean, I think that I'm just not sure if it's possible, but I don't know. I mean, it's something. It's entertaining to think about, I think, but beyond that, I don't know. I don't know.
Yeah, I don't know either. I would say that messing around in the broader space around UAP has made me think that we probably don't understand time as well as we used to think. That like if there's some like rumblings that some versions of precognition might be real, and if that's true, then time probably doesn't work in exactly the way we used to think, and there may be a layer at which you can sort of move through time, and I don't know. That does open up potential possibilities for visiting creatures that include like tourist humans from a million years from now, or like beings from the distant past or something. And that just kind of confuses the issue further, but it's already confusing enough. So moving forward into how we should all carry ourselves through this complicated information environment, do you have some advice about how people should comport themselves intellectually as they deal with all this complicated stuff? And do you have some places that you think we should go as a civilization? Like, what do you think we should do?
Well, okay. First off, the first question, I think that you have to talk about this subject as it's a matter of fact. As a matter of fact, that's how I deal with it on the show. On my podcast, I talk about it as it's a matter of fact, because that's the reality of the situation. It's a fact. There's something here with this, and I present on my podcast different things. For instance, I talk a lot about my show about the Las Vegas alien incident, which I believe proves there's no question once you take in the totality of all the evidence associated with that incident from 2023, there's no question that there's something here, and this proves it. There's no wiggling out of it. That's the way I see it. So we definitely have the proof now, and you just have to talk about this as a matter of fact. And if somebody doesn't believe you, say, well, then you're just stupid. I mean, I don't know if I'd recommend to say that, but that's how I talk like that on my podcast. I actually just did a show recently. I said, if you don't know that there's an NHI presence here, then you're stupid, because obviously you're ignorant. You haven't done the research. You're not that much interested in this. So that means you are ignorant. You're stupid when it comes to this. You might be someone who has the biggest grade point average of all time. It goes beyond 4.0. It doesn't matter. If you don't believe in this, you're stupid when it comes to this subject. So, and then how we need to handle it in the future. I think more and more people need to be stepping up, starting their own shows, starting their own podcasts. If you see the lies going on around here, whether it's from the government, there's some people in the UFO community itself I'm not sure if you could trust. The reality is this: something is here, right? I don't know what it is. I think it's alien. There's most certainly something with us. And if you don't know that at this point, then your head has been in the sand. You just haven't been exposed to enough, and you need to open your eyes. I think we need to get there's too many people in the mainstream news, for instance, that just look at this and think it's silly. We need to get more people in the mainstream news on board with this and present to them, hey, they're lying about this. Our governments of the world have been lying about this. There's just too many witnesses. I think I don't know. That's the only thing I could think of. More and more people need to start stepping up and telling them what happened to them, how they know that this is real, and we just take it from there. Similarly to what's going on with the slow disclosure process, we have all these former military guys, people like David Grush coming out, Lou Elizondo, people talking about what they know, sharing what they can. That we need to just keep doing that, but we need regular people, not just military people, not just government people. We need other people, and they need to just be firm about it. We need to be more firm with this. It's like we're not backing down. This is a matter of fact, and that's how we need to move forward with this, I think.
I tend to agree with all of that, and I have a particular bone to pick with the media and the scientific world. I think the scientific world's getting a little bit better. Media's kind of dragging its heels, specifically news media. And also just like while we're in vent space, I find our lack of curiosity about this disturbing. Like I find it really weird. And after the big reveal that we're not alone, that something's here, which is the big weird thing in the room, the next weirdest thing to me is that we've made it thousands of years without noticing this, that like account after account, decade after decade, generation after generation, people have said, yeah, this weird stuff happened to me. And we're just failing collectively to even get sufficiently curious about it to do meaningful research. So I just want to see us get to turn that corner where we're like pouring enough money and time and attention into it that we're going to make progress. Because we think it's as real as we think it is, it's an easy bet that if we spent like $100 million a year on this, that we would find more information about it probably fairly quickly. The fact that we're like limping along with maybe a couple million private funds for just Galileo and everybody else that I've talked to in the space has like no money and they have no time to work on it as a result. They would love to. A bunch of scientists would love to do serious research here, but they just can't because there's no funding. So that seems like the two big things we need to change are like the curiosity and the funding. And I think the funding probably has to flow from the curiosity. But I am kind of surprised and disappointed at how many highly intelligent humans are just like failing to take this seriously. And what that has taught me is that we are like profoundly tribal in a way that I previously didn't really believe. Like I didn't actually think we were that collectively stupid that we could ignore something this interesting if it were nearby. And that's why I didn't take it seriously for so long. I assumed, oh, if there were anything to this, then we would have already discovered it because somebody would have taken it seriously. And then to discover that, no, like whole fields of inquiry are just walled off by stigma and nobody's looking into it because they're worried about getting made fun of. It's like, it's really embarrassing, frankly.
Well, yeah, one of the things that people need to do, though, and some people, I get complaints from some people, like on my show, when I do this, is I'll say, well, either if you don't know, you're either stupid or you're lying. It's either one or the other. There is no in between, and that's true. I mean, you could be stupid. It's not your fault, though. Maybe you just weren't exposed to it, but you need to make yourself smart on it. If you're interested in making yourself smart, or you could just continue to be stupid, whatever. But I think that's how you handle it. You reverse the stigma back in the other direction, and just say either he's stupid or he's lying. Mick West, you're either stupid or you're lying. Neil deGrasse Tyson, if you don't know this by this point, you're either stupid or lying. I actually believe that someone like Neil deGrasse Tyson actually does believe it. He has to know. He can't be that stupid. So I think he's lying then. I mean, he's in a position where if he were to say, yes, there's some sort of an alien presence here, that would cause a lot of people all of a sudden to, that would cause a stir, I'm sure. And that's why he stays. That's why he doesn't. Same thing with Carl Sagan when he was alive. I think there are certain people that have to know they can't be that stupid, right? They just can't be. So they must be lying. I actually did a show one time on this about whether these certain people are stupid or lying, because that's the way I see it. It's one or the other. There's no in between at this point.
That's interesting. I do have kind of a different view there. First of all, I think Mick West is a smart person who's just like really good at coming up with alternate explanations. And I think all of his alternate explanations that I've ever seen are like, yeah, pretty plausible. Like, I don't think he's bad at generating those ideas. I think he's just like tricked himself into thinking that all his alternate explanations disprove the like underlying reality. And I think,
yes,
I think sometimes smart people can kind of talk themselves into really bad mistakes. I think there's some studies about this actually, that like highly intelligent people are better at deceiving themselves than the rest of us average intelligent folks. And I also tend to I give Neil deGrasse Tyson a little more good faith, but that is also to say that I think he's kind of being stupid about this. Like he had.
You might think he's stupid. I think he's lying. You think he's stupid. There you are. See, it's either stupid or lying, right? It's one or the other, right?
We talked to Kozlowski recently, the new Arrow head, and he tried out his frankly BS explanation that we would have crowdsourced an alien invasion with all our phones. Everyone has a cell phone. And Kozlowski was like, yeah, these things are far away and those phones are very small. Like, you wouldn't have really good footage of all these UFOs. And also, like, you do. If you just like scroll through TikTok, you'll see dozens of these videos. But like now we've got AI and it's hard to peel it apart. But the point is, like, Neil deGrasse Tyson there is demanding evidence that he wouldn't accept if someone presented it to him. Like somebody showed him a shaky iPhone video, he'd be like, well, this is not good. Well, then, yeah, like nobody's going to get good footage of these things. Like if they're advanced technology, they can probably defeat an iPhone, which we invented like 15 years ago.
Right.
So that's to say, I think he's stupid, but
yeah, well, you could be. I mean, that's the thing.
I don't like I generally like him. I
think he's great. I think he's entertaining. He makes me laugh. He's definitely, but when it comes to this subject, I just think, I can't imagine someone of his intelligence being stupid when it comes to this. I would have to imagine someone who's an astronomer, an astrophysicist whose business is to look at the stars and tell us what's going on. I think, for them, that means he had to be checking this out, at least privately, about UFOs in the background. And if he did do that, then that means he has to know. Anybody who would read, for instance, books by like Richard Dolan's books about UFOs and national security state. There's so many different books out there. So many different cases where it becomes the Ariel school incident. How could anyone look at that and think, oh, that didn't happen? But yeah, Mick West tries to put him up. He actually promoted an explanation that it was that the aerial school incident could have been a group of traveling puppeteers that showed up at 10 o'clock in the morning without the teachers even knowing about it, put on a little puppet show with UFOs and aliens, telepathic aliens, by the way, and then take off before the teachers saw it. I mean, come on, that's gaslighting.
That's a pretty big reach.
I mean, yeah. Well, he has to know if someone from his position. That's why I think he's lying about this. Mick West, I think, has to know. In fact, he won't even comment. He won't even provide an explanation on the Las Vegas case. He won't do it. He won't try to even. So he was offered $5,000 from Scott Roeder, a crime scene reconstruction expert, to do an analysis, and he wouldn't do it. He turned it down. You know, I'm gonna get sued. What, sued for what? For lying? I mean, because that's the only thing he could do. I mean, I'm telling you, the guy has to know. There's no question in my mind.
One kind of sad thing that this pointed me toward thinking just now is that we put really, really low credence in other human beings' reports. And that's like a deep sort of feature of the way our current scientific worldview works, is that we don't take people seriously when they tell us stuff. And one of my favorite people that I've talked to about this is Dr. Michael Bolender, who's like a criminal judge. He was an ICC judge. He teaches law in England. And one of his big takes is, in a court of law, witness testimony is highly regarded. Yes, it's not perfect. We all understand that there are many mistakes that you can make. You thought you saw a red car. In fact, you saw a blue car. You thought it was noon. In fact, it was 5. People do make all those mistakes all the time. But I think we've internalized that and expanded it to explain away all human reports of anything unusual. And I think there's something kind of deeply sad about that, because it suggests that at like a profound level, we don't trust each other to report on reality. That's kind of a bummer.
Yeah. If it looks like it's aliens, it can't be true. That's how they handle it. And that's a shame, because, I mean, you look at so many different incidents over the years, like the 1966 Westall incident in Australia, for instance. All these witnesses, staff and students, see a UFO landing, and some people saw creatures and everything. But yet, for some reason, everyone's still wondering if it's real or not. What are you talking about? You had 50, you had over 60 kids in the aerial school. Yeah. You have like 100 people or more at the Westall school. You have all these witnesses for so many different, that's just a couple of cases, right?
You know,
we're still pretending like that's going on.
The 50s soccer game in Italy, it's like 1954 or something. And like, I think maybe 5,000 people see this big like egg-shaped thing. They stop play. There's like spiderwebby stuff that lands on the ground. That's thousands of people witnessing something, and we all just kind of move on, and we don't get curious. Okay, so to that point, I'll stop complaining now, and I'll land us on like, what would we have to do? This is like an intellectual project I've been considering, and I'd love your help with it. What would it have to look like what would an event featuring UFOs have to look like to convince a sufficient number of people to trigger like mass curiosity about this subject? What I've got so far are, you would need to record it. It would need to be public, and ideally there would be some kind of interaction. So I'm picturing like people who say they can do CE5 or like summon orbs or whatever, get a large group of people, get a bunch of independent recording devices, record what's happening, get identity information for everybody there, or as many people who are willing to share, so they can all be contacted by media organizations. Actually, ideally, you would even get some small media organizations to come with you to lend like credence to this event actually having happened. And then the whole holy grail gold star would be that you could generate a moment like the aerial school incident where something lands and there's an actual being that in some way communicates to people present. Am I missing any elements? Do you have some like fantasy of how this could go if we were to design like a public first contact moment? What do you think that would have to be to convince enough people to be curious?
Well, at this moment in time, I think if something like Phoenix Lights happened again, or Stephenville, Texas from 2007 and 2008, the Phoenix Lights was in 1997. If something like that were to happen now, because during those two incidents, 1997, there were cell phones, but there wasn't no video on them yet. And in 2007, 2008, when the Stephenville incident happened, cell phones, if you remember back then, they weren't that good. I mean, you had very the pictures were no good, right? So, but not everybody carries cameras with them. But if we were to have some incident like that happen again at this point, with say, and it lasts for a couple hours in broad daylight, I think that would be the end of it. Because in a major city, I mean, if it's somewhere like Stephenville, Texas, where there's people spread out all over the place and there's not a lot of witnesses, but if you have it in a major metropolitan area like Phoenix again, or something like that, that would be the end. I think that would most certainly, because you wouldn't be able to deny it. There would be tens of thousands of people probably have something filmed on their cell phones. You probably see some of the beings. If you remember in the Stephenville, Texas incident, there was a guy named Ricky Sorrells who in December of 2007, not only did he see a giant craft hovering just outside of his house underneath the forest, he looked up and above the canopy of trees, there was this giant object. He couldn't even see the end of it. But he also told other people that he saw through his scope on his gun a mantis creature looking back at him. So if you were to have another incident, say an incident like that, but it takes place like in a major metropolitan area, and you have say 5,000 cell phone cameras filming it, you're going to have, and probably every news station in the world is going to be going there and filming it. That would be the end game. Then everyone would finally know. That might be the only way, actually, because even if the government were to come clean finally, still people wouldn't believe it. I think that there would still be people who would say, I just can't accept this. I don't believe it. That's not enough evidence for me. Even if they showed them the dead bodies, they're not going to believe it.
Yeah.
So that's where I'm at with it. I mean, you the best stories in the world. We're talking about some of them here. How about the French UFO wave of 1954? All these people in France seeing craft and creatures for months. I mean, there's just so many different incidents, but none of it was ever enough. But what would it take? An event like Phoenix Lights, but again, at this time, if it happened now, it'd be a different story than when it happened before.
Yeah, I think that's a good point, and I just want to highlight that I think the critical aspect of what you're describing is that the same event might get recorded by a bunch of different people. So I think the drone waves in Jersey and elsewhere in the world, they're not going to be enough because they're always individuals and they're filming different things. Like, frankly, a lot of them are generic drones or regular planes. Like, maybe there are a ton of really weird things in there too, but it's so mixed in that it's just hard to tell. So what we need, to your point, is one big thing, but we have like tons of individual recordings of it so that CNN can play a loop of all of these images of the same thing from different people's phones, and ideally from some actual media cameras.
Yeah, it would put the military, it would put the Pentagon on the spot. They would have to provide an answer finally. They would not be able to hide anymore if something like that were to happen. And it could happen. I mean, it's happened. It has happened. It's happened. It's been happening. They weren't the only case. I mean, there was a case in Farmington, New Mexico, I believe, in 1950. There was a few days worth of flying saucers, people, hundreds of them in the sky, flying all over the place. So, or I think it was 1950, but it was sometime back. But there events like this happen sometimes. But if something like that were to happen again, and I think it will, I think that these beings are probably aware of our technology and what we have. I think that they know, they're cognizant of what we're, so they didn't have a problem showing up back in McMinnville, because they knew the best they're going to do is get a snapshot.
Right.
But now they have to be cognizant of the fact that, hey, all these people now, they have these cell phones that have the ability to film things in 4K.
Yeah,
we got to be careful. I mean, so they have to be aware of this stuff, right? When you think?
I think I agree with you. I think you're right. They're being sneakier. We could get lucky and some like new visitor might show up and not know very much about us and appear above the Super Bowl, and we'll all get footage. But I think if we're just depending on their goodwill or willingness to show themselves, we might be waiting for a really long time. So that's why I'm kind of tacking toward this CE5 Close Encounters of the Fifth Kind idea, where like somebody does some kind of summoning, like uses a signal that brings something, or does like a psychic outreach or whatever, like Skywatcher has been doing. But we need some sort of public element to that. Like, it's not enough to have a private retreat, especially if people are paying for it, because then everybody else goes, grifters, you're
right. I mean, that's the thing. It'd have to be free. For one thing, get the money out. It has to, that'd be one thing. But here's the thing: like, if you were to do something like that, a CE5 kind of thing, like you're talking, I mean, you could do it, but I mean, maybe not make a big deal out of it, but do it in an area where there's going to be a lot of people, Like do it
Yeah.
and say, okay, you want to do it over a big city, over St. Louis or something, right? Okay, all these CE5 people who believe that they could communicate with aliens, they get together. Keep it on the low key. Don't make a big deal out of it. Just do it, and then this way, it doesn't matter if anybody knows about it or not. The fact is, you would bring them in. You're not trying because if put it this way, if you did something like that and it didn't work, you're going to be a laughing stock of the universe, right? And the people are going to say they thought they're going to call aliens, and no, you do it secretly and you bring them to the people who aren't expecting to see them. Then this way, and maybe create another Phoenix Lights or Stephenville incident, but in the 2025, right?
That is a really good idea. It's not something I had thought of. If we start doing this, if anybody starts doing these public contact attempts, try to do them near populated areas so you can get some footage of them, but you might also trigger sightings from other people who could record them and therefore corroborate the event. That's a great idea, Jim.
Actually call on their mothership. Bring the mothership. Tell me what the mothership.
That would be
and all the bells and whistles along with it.
Something really big would wake us up. So sensitive to your time now. Thank you for sharing so much of it with me. Is there anything like lingering in your mind space here that you want to return to, highlight, double down on, ping, or bring up for the first time as we bring this conversation to a close?
Well, I just want to say that I want to appreciate you having me on the show. For one thing, we had a great discussion. I thought I want to say that evidence is available out there for people who are interested in evidence, and a lot of different books they could read about it. But I believe we have evidence now. There's proof. I believe if you're not sure about this and you were to look into this Las Vegas alien incident of 2023, I believe that shows enough. I mean, there's enough evidence there that when you put it all together, it tells you one thing, that we're definitely not alone. Something definitely happened here that involved non-human intelligent beings. And there's proof now. And anybody tells you otherwise, you could always point them to that and say, well, actually, no, you're wrong. I'm right, because this proves it right here. And it's up to them if they want to look at that and absorb it or not. That's all I want to say, I guess.
Interesting. Cool. Yeah, I would point people to the broad field because I think there's like a quality to quantity of this evidence that once you realize how much there is, it sort of raises your threshold for the nature of reality being true to the reports. I think it raises the likelihood that any given one of them is true, just to see how many of them there are and have been over many decades. So I want to say thank you again so much, Jim. I hope people will watch and listen to your show, Extraterrestrial Reality, and or Quirk Zone. You might find it named different things in different places: YouTube, Spotify, podcast players. Is there anywhere else you like people to contact you or follow your work?
Oh, those are the two main places. On YouTube, it's Quirk Zone, and on Spotify, it's UFO Extraterrestrial Reality. That's where they'll find me if they want to listen to my show or watch it. That's it. That's all I could say about it. I usually do 3, 4, 5 shows a week.
Wow. That's pretty amazing, man. I can only manage one.
Yeah, I just keep it going. There's a couple I'm working on right now, doing something with the Turkey UFO videos. I'm going to be doing a show on that pretty soon.
Cool.
Another re-examination. That's another case I think that's pretty much undeniable. I mean, you see the craft and the creatures. I mean, what else do you want?
Whoa. All right. I'm going to look forward to that. I will get back to listening to and watching your show as soon as we're done making this one. So I hope everybody goes and subscribes and follows you. And if they made it all the way through this show, they could subscribe and follow us. That would be good too. Jim, it's been really great talking to you. And I hope we can keep in touch as we all learn more about this wild subject.
I'm sure we will, Caleb.
And that's the show. Thank you for listening. If you're enjoying it, please like and subscribe and share this with people who you think might like it. You could also directly support us at patreon.com/WTUFO for $1 a month. We do some chatting in there, and you can propose questions for future episodes. You could also check out spacefair.etsy.com. That's our company's main merch site where you could support us commercially and pick up some cool gear. Thank you again for listening. Hope you have a lovely day.